I love my husband, John, more deeply than words can truly capture. We've always been seen as the perfect couple. He's handsome, professional, and effortlessly charismatic. John is one of those rare individuals who earns respect and admiration without ever trying. As he approaches 50, I feel incredibly fortunate to have him by my side. I'm 46 and have always been comfortable in my own skin. With warm brown eyes, hair to match, and a figure I'm proud of, I try to stay active with yoga and light exercises, though I don't push myself too hard. I enjoy life's pleasures, good food, wine, and the occasional indulgence, which has led to a few extra pounds. But honestly, I think they suit me, especially at this stage of my life. I work as a retail manager, and when I'm not at work, I dive into my passions for reading, solving puzzles, and playing games. Our children, Jason and Vicky, are grown but live nearby, and they still visit often for family game nights. Although our sex life has been fulfilling, it never quite reached the deep intimacy I had always hoped for. Interestingly, it's John who's been more concerned about this than I am. He's always been the expert when it comes to tender touches, and I love being close to him. But despite our physical connection, something still felt missing. Everything changed at my office Christmas party. John always accompanies me as my date, and it's always a pleasure to dress up and have fun together. He fit right in, chatting with my coworkers with his usual intelligence and charm. At one point, I left him at the bar and joined a group of girls on the dance floor. Soon, a few younger male colleagues joined us, including Martin, the new supply manager. There was something undeniably magnetic about Martin. The chemistry between us was immediate. He was young, fit, charming, and surprisingly interested in me. As the evening went on, I couldn't deny how drawn to him I felt. Eventually, I returned to John, finding him sitting at the bar, looking a little distant. "Sorry, babe," I said. I got caught up talking and wandering around, talking to everyone or just him. John asked, his gaze subtly pointing toward Martin. "That's Martin," I explained. "Just a colleague. We had a fun, harmless dance. That's all." John gave me a knowing look, his expression unreadable. "I saw the way you looked at him. You like him." His words caught me off guard. I hesitated before admitting, well, maybe I do. I hadn't really thought about it before, but the attention felt nice. I felt guilty, but also stirred by the idea of being desired in that way. To my surprise, John didn't get upset. Instead, he accepted my explanation with quiet grace, and we continued enjoying the rest of the evening. That night, when we returned home, I felt an intense desire for John that I hadn't experienced in a while. We shared passionate, intimate sex, and afterward John asked, "Was it Martin who turned you on?" I hesitated, but decided to be honest. "Maybe he played a small role, but it was mostly you, honey." John seemed relieved, and I continued, "I'm flattered that a younger man finds me attractive, but he can't have me. Everything is for you." From that point on, we began talking more openly about our desires, feelings, and fantasies. Our intimacy deepened, and we grew closer than we had been in years. We started experimenting, trying new things, using toys, and exploring different sides of each other's desires. I bought new lingerie, knowing John's preferences, stockings, heels, and more. We went out more, and I found myself playfully teasing him during our dates. This newfound confident side of me thrilled me, and it brought us even closer. Our conversations expanded to include hypothetical fantasies, who we'd find attractive from movies or sports stars. These light-hearted chats created a sense of playfulness between us. Through it all, I reassured John repeatedly of how much I loved him and how lucky I felt to have a man who was willing to indulge my fantasies and desires. We even began watching adult films together. Some of the adult films we watched together often featured themes of infidelity, and at the same time, Martin's flirtations at work grew bolder. I couldn't help but enjoy the attention, even though I politely declined his invitations. A part of me, however, secretly wished I could say yes. Eventually, I decided it was time to have an honest conversation with John. I love you more than anything, I began. You're the most amazing husband in the world. He smiled, responding, Thank you, babe. I love you too. Is something wrong? No, I reassured him. Everything's fine. But do you remember when you asked me if I was open to exploring more pleasure in our intimacy? I paused. I've been thinking about it, and I want to try exploring it before I get too old. I wonder if it would feel different with someone else. John looked stunned, his face full of confusion. What? I don't understand. Martin invited me on a weekend trip. I explained carefully. I want to go. I think I could learn something that might help us. Maybe we can use what I experienced to explore new things together, just like we've talked about in our fantasies. John was silent for a long time. His expression reflected a mix of pain and confusion. Trish, that's just a fantasy, he said softly. It could become a reality, I replied, trying to sound reassuring. Martin's interested in me, but he's not a threat to our marriage. I just want to be honest with you. Nothing that happens will change how much I love you. John was visibly shaken. Have you and Martin done anything before? He asked cautiously. No, I assured him. We're just colleagues. Nothing's ever happened. I just feel like I need to explore this. I love you, John, but I want to see if this could help us grow. That night, neither of us slept well. I wrestled with doubt and guilt, wondering if I was making the right choice. John seemed to be processing it more slowly. By morning, I reassured myself that fantasies like this were common and could help reinvigorate our connection. When the day of the trip finally arrived, I dressed in new lingerie, a garter belt, a bra, and a tiny thong. The feeling was intoxicating, though there was a mix of thrill and guilt. I packed my suitcase with dresses, heels, and other intimate pieces, then kissed John goodbye. I'll be back Sunday, I said. Be ready to take me back. I want you to be part of this. John didn't respond, but his nervous energy was clear. I promised I'd stay in touch to make sure he was okay. When Martin saw me in my outfit, his eyes lit up with pure desire. I let just the edge of my stocking peek out, savoring the way he looked at me. The sexual tension between us was undeniable. At dinner, Martin asked, How did John take the news about our trips? Not well, I admitted, but not as badly as I thought. I'm almost disappointed he didn't fight harder. Do you think he enjoys this on some level, like being a cuckold? He asked with a sly grin. Don't talk about him like that, I snapped. John's a good man. I'm going to check on him later to make sure he's okay. Later that evening, I called John, my heart pounding. Hey, babe, I made it. The hotel's great. How are you? There was a long pause before he answered. Have fun. My heart sank. What had he told the kids? Surely he wouldn't embarrass me or himself by revealing too much. I hoped he was just distracting himself. I texted him later. Martin's being a perfect gentleman. This is exciting, exploring this fantasy. John's response was cryptic. Ah, yes. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish fantasy from reality. His short reply worried me. It wasn't the reassurance I had hoped for, but at least he wasn't angry. Martin noticed my preoccupation and grinned. He's handling this better than I expected. Maybe he does enjoy it. Why not send him a selfie of us together? I hesitated, but eventually sent a photo of Martin and me enjoying dinner at the restaurant with a playful caption. I continued to exchange light-hearted messages with John, trying to keep the mood playful. At one point, I texted him, replacing the word time with date, hoping it might excite him that I had a wonderful date. Though a brief moment of guilt washed over me as I thought about the anniversary we'd once celebrated at this very hotel. It was hard not to be reminded of it, especially when I read John's reply. Sounds like you're having a great time. You certainly dressed the part, and I see no wedding ring. His words stung deeper than I anticipated. The memory of that anniversary lingered, and the weight of regret slowly crept in. I quickly typed a response, hoping to ease his worries. Babe, the ring will be back on my finger on Sunday when I get home. Love you. But as I sent the message, guilt swelled within me, and I wondered if I could ever make it right once I returned. That night, the tension between Martin and me reached its peak. We decided to skip another drink and headed straight to the room. On the way there, I texted John, trying to keep him involved in the fantasy. Already on my way up. Hope it turns you on. I'll be your hot wife soon. Tell me, how are you feeling? The moment we entered the room, Martin kissed me passionately, whispering, "You won't regret this, Trish. Maybe we can make this a regular thing, if John is okay with it." The chemistry between us was undeniable, but the guilt began to cloud my thoughts, overwhelming me. I retreated to the bathroom to freshen up, unbuttoning my dress and admiring myself in the mirror. The expensive lingerie I had bought fit perfectly, hugging my body in all the right places. Yet, the guilt weighed heavily on me. I checked my phone again. John still hadn't replied. I sent him another message, my worry growing. "John, are you there? You've been quiet all night. I love you, baby. We'll make things right when I get home." His response was swift but cold. Hard to believe that's possible. My heart skipped a beat. His words hit me like a punch. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself that his feelings were understandable. Desperate to reassure him, I sent selfies of myself in the lingerie and stockings, hoping to reignite some of that playful connection between us. "Honestly, babe, I'm going to dress exactly the same for you two." From the other room, Martin called out jokingly, asking if I was torturing him by making him wait. But my phone buzzed again, and John's next message made my blood run cold. "Enough about that. You like puzzles, right? Maybe you'll understand." At first, his words didn't make sense, but soon the pieces fell into place, and a chilling realization hit me. Forget divorce. The word hit me like a brick. Panic surged through me as I tried calling him, but there was no answer. My fingers trembled as I sent another text. "This is all a mistake. Please don't do anything rash. I love you." His response was immediate, and it shattered me. Loving you was a terrible mistake. My world seemed to collapse in that instant. I tried to call him again, but there was no answer. My hands shook as I typed another desperate message. "Please, John, this isn't what you think. Nothing happened. I'm on my way home." His next reply shattered what was left of me. "Legally speaking, you left me no choice." I've made in a panic. I grabbed my things and rushed for the door. Martin tried to stop me, looking bewildered. "Trish, calm down. What's going on?" he asked. I showed him the text from John. "He knows," I said, breathless. "I have to go home now." We rushed to Martin's car, and as he sped off, I left a barrage of desperate voicemails for John, begging him to listen. "Please, John, I love you. This was a terrible mistake." But John's next message was a final blow, sealing my fate. "It's not a mistake, Trish. It's your choice. Your body, your decision. You didn't want to miss the chance, did you? Did you even know Martin is married with 3 kids?" My heart sank, and Martin, looking guilty yet silent, didn't argue. John's last message arrived shortly after. "I'm already on paid leave. We'll be traveling a lot now." The weight of those words hit me hard. When I finally arrived home, everything fell off. The house was unnervingly quiet, and a for sale sign stood in the front yard. My heart dropped as I walked in. The kitchen table was empty except for a set of neatly folded divorce papers. John had already signed them. Most of his things were gone. The realization was crushing. I had lost him, my best friend, my confidant, the love of my life. I sent one last message, holding on to the hope that things could somehow be fixed. "We're not done. I love you, and I know you love me." But for 2 excruciating weeks, there was no response. Every attempt to reach him was met with silence. I was consumed with regret, trapped in the painful reality that I had destroyed everything we'd built. Then one day, an envelope arrived with his unmistakable handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was his wedding ring. The sight of it sent another wave of grief crashing over me. I was drowning in the weight of my choices. The following day, I received a text from John. "Hi, just wanted to let you know I arrived safely. The resort is wonderful." I stared at the message, clinging to the hope it gave, but the accompanying photo only confused me more. It was a beautiful beach, turquoise waters glistening in the sun. But my stomach sank as I thought about what this could mean. John wasn't done with me yet. Attached to his message was another photo, this time of a stunning woman in a bikini lounging on a chaise lounge. My stomach twisted in knots. I realized John was mirroring my actions back at me. His next message read, "Great dates. She and I have them here every day. Thought you'd appreciate the effort of me going without my ring. Wanted to show you the same respect you showed me." The weight of his words hit me like a ton of bricks. You should have received it by now. How are you doing, by the way? As I reread the messages, it became painfully clear. John wasn't just telling me how he felt. He was retaliating. Then came the final blow. "Sorry, can't offer restoration or reconciliation." He had copied all of my texts from that night and sent them to an email thread. The recipients were Martin's wife, my parents, and worst of all, our children. Martin called me shortly after, furious. His wife had kicked him out and was filing for divorce. He blamed me for everything, but I turned the blame right back on him for pursuing me so relentlessly. My parents were no less angry, demanding to know what I had been thinking. But none of that compared to the devastation in my children's eyes when they found out. The look of disappointment was unbearable. They told me, flat out, to never expect John to come back.